Just over 2 decades ago, in the early 2000s, Spain's economy was booming. Citizens of Spain were almost as rich as citizens of Germany and the United Kingdom. The country was overflowing with foreign direct investments, at some point even attracting more investment than Germany and France. A lot of economists thought that Spain would not only outpace big European economies like Germany or France, but it would grow as fast as the United States of America. The country was seen as one of the most desirable destinations to invest your money in the real estate sector. A lot of young people actively chose blue-collar jobs like plumber or construction workers instead of higher education due to the real estate boom. Blue-collar workers with brand new BMWs and Mercedes were a common sight. The unemployment rate was going down faster and faster, and there were even talks of Spain stealing the spotlight and becoming the most dominant economy on Europe. However, just a few years later, the economy of Spain was in shambles, and it has not fully recovered yet to its peak.
Demonstrations like this one in Barcelona are likely to become more frequent over the next few months as more and more people in Spain lose their jobs.
To this day, Spain's real estate sector is often cited as an example of an economy becoming overly dependent on one sector, similar to the concept of Dutch disease. To really understand how and why it happened, we should divide the topic in few chapters. How was Spain's economy growing so fast? What mistakes did Spain do that made the economy crash? Recent rise of Spain's economy. Is it another bubble? There is a lot to talk about Spain's economy. The country was shaped by decisions of past century. After World War II, while other Western European countries like France, UK, Italy and Germany got together and started establishing alliances to rebuild their countries together, Spain was essentially isolated due to the political landscape in the 1940s. The country was also excluded from the Marshall Plan and they were not really included in other important European treaties. However, it is best to start talking about the 1980s. Spain joined the European Economic Community in 1986, which then was later transferred to the European Union in 1993. Joining the European Union was a double-edged sword for Spain, because on one hand, more integrated market and more shared resources meant that Spain could essentially use European Union funds to fund their own industries. However, on the other hand, Spain had to make some serious changes to fit in the Union, including adopting strict laws and regulations regarding different industries. Spain went on to adopt the euro in 2002, marking the new beginnings. This was mostly great for the country, considering that the currency Spain had before, Spanish peseta, wasn't necessarily famous for its stability. The adoption of the euro made the country appear more desirable for European investors, not only due to its stability, but also due to the ease of exchange. However, on the other hand, Spain's central bank essentially gave up a lot of power in doing so. They had way less control over the currency. Most notably, they lost the ability to set interest rates. Interest rates are one of the main monetary tools of any country. Adjusting the interest rates can not only affect the money supply, but it can also affect unemployment, stock market and inflation. Adjusting interest rates is the strongest tool actively used by most countries to regulate their economy. So to summarize the adoption of the euro, countries switched from unstable currency to more stable and desirable one. However, they lost quite a lot of flexibility while doing so. Joining the European Union was a great success for Spain, because it kicked off one of the fastest growing economies on the continent. Spain's real estate sector was overflowing with investments, to the point where more and more young people chose blue-collar jobs like plumbing or construction working. This was great news for Spain, because the boom significantly reduced the high unemployment rate from 24.2% in 1994 down to 8.2% in 2007. At the same time, banks were going crazy. More and more people were applying for mortgages to buy a new home. The construction companies were drowning in cash, and banks were happy to give out loans. Unfortunately, the real estate boom turned out to be a bubble. When the Eurozone crisis started in 2008,
as fear continues to spread over the impact of the Greek debt crisis, more people are questioning how such a small country could impact markets around the world.
Spain's real estate industry followed suit, ultimately collapsing, which led to 2008 to 2014 Spanish financial crisis. While we can't fully blame the Spanish government for the real estate bubble, there could always be more and more regulations that could have stopped or at least greatly reduced the growth of the bubble. At first, we must realize that the real estate boom was not only fueled by the foreign investments, but it was also heavily propped up by the Spanish banks. Banks were happy to give out insanely long mortgages that will take 40 to 50 years to pay off. At the same time, the common assumption was that the real estate prices would always go up. Thus, a lot of mortgages were based on equity that wasn't necessarily as valuable and liquid as everyone thought. Thinking back though, it wasn't entirely wrong to have that assumption, considering that Spain's real estate prices were one of the fastest growing in the world at the time. It even outpaced France, UK, Denmark, Sweden and the United States. Long mortgages encouraged young people and lower class people to actively take part in the housing market, which essentially created quite a big risk for the overall portfolios. There were lots of statistics that could be used as doom indicators for the economy. For one, Spain's household debt-to-income ratio went from 73% in 2001 to over 130% in 2007. According to the Spanish Mortgage Association, the volume of mortgage lending increased by a factor of 4.5 between 1996 and 2004. The same source states that from 1990 to 2004, the average loan period increased from 12 years to 25 years. Easier credit has translated into greater debt among the Spaniards. A 24.1% increase in mortgage lending during 2004 brought the national volume of mortgage debt to 580 billion euros, or 73.1% of the Spanish GDP. Needless to say, the lending spree was hedged against the assumption that the country's economy and the job market would not only continue the insane growth, but also that the real estate market would be more and more desirable in the future. However, we are looking at this from post-crash perspective, while at the time most governments might have done the same thing, as in giving more and more incentives to the biggest booming industry in the country, just to boost the economic growth. One that not only decreased unemployment, but also kicked off one of the fastest growing economies on the continent. The boom and bust left a long-lasting effect on Spain's economy, because it pretty much reversed a decade of progress. The unemployment rate quickly skyrocketed, especially among young people, while at the same time investors lost a lot of confidence in Spain. It is also worth mentioning that the Eurozone crisis made it harder for Spain to maintain a good export value, essentially making it harder for the country to financially recover. For more than a decade, Spain's economy was suffering. It could not get back to its pre-crisis levels. However, recently the tides have changed. After a huge downturn, Spain had decided to impose more restrictions on the real estate market, making it less profitable for people to acquire it as an investment. For example, Spain had recently restricted Airbnbs in some cities. Moreover, they are introducing 100% sales tax on non-European Union citizens. Spain is 8th biggest car producer in the world, and it is the 2nd biggest car manufacturer on the European continent, just after Germany. The car industry is one of the most important industries in the country, because up to 9% of the overall exports from Spain in 2020 were coming from cars. Spain is sitting on geopolitical goldmine, because as China will try to penetrate the European Union market with their electric vehicles and renewable energy manufacturing, the European Union will be more and more willing to fund the local manufacturers by either giving out more subsidies on production or introducing higher tariffs on outside products. This had happened in last year, when the European Union introduced up to 45.3% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. The Spanish industry has led the country towards insane growth. In 2022, the country's economy grew by 6.2% compared to European Union's average of 3.5%. And in 2023, it grew by 2.7% compared to European Union's average of 0.4%. Despite this growth, not everything is as good as this sounds. For one, Spain's economy is extremely dependent on tourism. It comes at 4th place in the European Union in terms of share of GDP, standing at 14.5% in 2023, which is far more compared to France's 8.8% in the same year. This over-dependency on the tourism could pose a significant threat to the country's economy, because countries that were over-reliant on tourism including Spain, was hit the hardest during the pandemic. On the other hand, real estate could still pose a significant threat to the country's economy, because while Spain had introduced harsh laws and regulations against the real estate sector, the country is still over-dependent on the sector compared to other nations. On the other hand, Spain still suffers a lot from unemployment. In 2024, unemployment rate for Spain was at staggering 11.2%, which was the highest in the European Union. The situation gets even worse once we look at the EU's unemployment, because as of July 2024, Spain had second highest youth unemployment in the Union, standing at 25.5% compared to European Union's average of 14.5%. In conclusion, while Spain's economy is growing and more opportunities are looking bright for Spain, the country still has quite a lot of economic problems to deal with, including unemployment rates, over-dependency on tourism, and most notably stagnant wages. Hey, thank you for watching my video. If you have liked it, please subscribe so you will not miss out on our future uploads.